Gonna sneak out?
Woof. Right. I'm Sharon. It's February 17th, and this is Brian.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome. Tell us about yourself, Brian.
I'm your husband.
Yep. You're mid-30s?
Yeah. Mid-30s.
White. Male.
White. Autistic.
ADHD.
ADHD, yeah. We'll definitely feed off each other a little bit.
Fun for everyone.
I'm sure we'll get into a lot more.
Okay.
As
We
time goes on.
are watching John Oliver, or as we lovingly call him, Johnny-O. He is back for season 13, and he's doing an episode on ice. So we're gonna watch it, and you're not ready. Tell the people why you got up, Brian.
Oh, you stopped recording.
Yes.
I unplugged the fridge because I can hear it in your videos. Kind of tuning out normally, but in your videos it's pretty obvious when I think it's going. Just
The whirring. Yeah.
yeah, the whooshing.
All right.
Okay, Johnny O, ice.
Johnny-O's ice.
Where this is going. We have to dive straight in with our main story this week, which concerns what's been happening in Minnesota, from the excursion immigration raids to the killings of Renee Good and Alex Pretty to the massive protests in the streets. And to be clear, for all this administration's talk of paid agitators, the protests there came from justifiably furious locals like this almost absurdly Midwestern man.
You know what really pisses me off is the fact that they detain people, cuff them, and then still beat the shit out of them. They tell you it's immigrants, only immigrants. It's fucking anybody.
And everybody in the prison
I
system.
have friends that got detained and all they were doing was fucking driving home from work. What the fuck?
Sounds like you don't fit the definition of the,
I'm not fucking paid to be here like everybody fucking says. What the fuck is that? I gotta work in the goddamn morning, just like everybody else. I'm just here trying to stand up for community, dude. We're all human beings here. I don't give a shit who you are, where you came from, what color you are. It doesn't fucking matter. This is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are acting like a bunch of dicks when you're provoking that level of response in Minnesota. A state whose whole thing is being Minnesota nice. They put it on merch. Other states couldn't pull that off, especially because Florida nice sounds like a brand of pills you buy from the gas station that makes your heart explode. And I will say, this does seem like a turning point for this administration on immigration. Polls show the majority of Americans do not approve of what's been happening, and nor should they.
Yeah.
It's for all
That
Trump's talk of
That number is so fucking low. It said 60%. 60%? Only 60% of people disapprove.
Yeah, I think I can't remember where I heard it, but like no matter what regime is in power, how horrible they are, you're guaranteed about 30% of the population is going to approve of them throughout history. So you've got 30% that are just going to be okay with it because
So
people are different.
on average, 30% of humanity is absolute shitholes. And they just are brainwashed and they couldn't care less. Combination of both.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
There's like, they have low empathy.
I think a lot of it is
Well, the worst
probably fear response. Like people are just scared for their life, and so they're going to support the status quo because that's the safest thing to do. And a lot of them are also going to be brainwashed.
Yeah, mega. So mega are the ones who don't have empathy. The ones who are would still consider themselves MAGA. Not just they consider themselves conservative, but they specifically consider themselves MAGA. MAGA are the lowest of the low humans.
Oh, they're in such a crazy cult.
Yeah.
They are absolutely brainwashing the cult. It's a
Right.
fucking death cult is what it is.
Kind of need to think about it as Scientology. Keith Raniere.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like he did awful things, but like I have a soft spot. Like it is sad that he died. Right?
Mm-hmm. Like some of these people, they're not evil, but they are so their brains are just so twisted and manipulated, and that they are willing to do extremely fucked up things.
I find it very hard to have empathy for those people.
I get it.
And I guess that's the bad part of me. That's the part of me in the wouldn't get into the good place immediately.
That would be a challenge.
I mean, like, people who abuse dogs, no problem, right? You can have hatred for those people.
Mm-hmm.
But people who are in a spiral cult and there's no hope of them getting out.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, we have to realize there's not really any point in trying to convince these people that they're wrong because they cannot see it. They cannot understand it. They're not operating on a I'm thinking about things level. They are completely subverted into this survival hellhole in their head all the time.
Yeah. You know what I need more of in my life? Jordan Klepper clips.
Oh, yes.
Going to talk to those people because I don't know. Some part of me, it makes me feel better when he talks to them and they just sound like complete just talking points, and the worst, just so fucking stupid. So much of what comes out of their mouth is like, do you have any ability to think at all? They're the NPCs of the world. 30% of the population are NPCs. You have to have some sort of filler.
Yeah.
God.
So, I think it's 30% of the population are just always going to support it. So that means that of the 70% of the population that are left, 10%, well, 60% of them are completely against it, and 10% of us are just checked out of life.
Yeah.
Do not even want to know what's going on.
Yep.
Because at this point it's intentional, not knowing.
Yeah. Complicit. That's the word I use. Complicit. Because I think ignorance gives people a pass. Just saying, oh, you're ignorant. Like because of the way that ignorance is bliss is in our head. Charlie, stop chewing. Ryan. Cone. Just makes me so angry. And I can't stop thinking about that people in my life are largely complicit. They're part of, most of the people in my life are part of the 10%. And we need to get our power of attorneys notarized. Seriously. Because if this goes to the worst that it can go, we need to be prepared.
Right.
Because...
And making videos is we're on a list.
We're on a list anyway.
I know.
You know how much I repost shit?
Right.
Like, we're on that list.
Yeah, like news came out that Reddit was giving information to the government on everybody that posted against ICE.
They don't even need Reddit. Oh, I mean, and if you do anything outside and they know where you are. They know what you're doing.
Right.
At all times. Like, pretending like they don't. We need to get our power of attorneys notarized. Let's move on. There's so much episode to listen to.
Targeting the worst of the worst. That rings pretty hollow when you see agents doing things like dragging a US citizen out of his house in his underwear through the snow and taking a 5-year-old into custody. It is frankly no wonder anti-ICE sentiment has spread to places you might not even expect, from Pop-Tarts the cat, who posted a video with "fuck ICE" on it, to the subreddit Massive Cock, where users captions dick pics with things like "how hard I get when I think about abolishing ICE." Can you imagine Vegas earlier this month where this happened?
Oh yeah. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
That's amazing.
Excellent.
If
Good.
WWE,
On to everyone involved there. The crowd's getting their point across in the perfect way.
I mean, to be completely awful, you would, that's one of the few places you would expect, like,
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That is, just keep happening, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
what will get to Trump's ego. That sort of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So much more than
MJF going full Jim from the Office into the camera. The point is, to the extent they ever had it, ICE and Border Patrol have clearly lost the public's trust. And it frankly hasn't helped to see grotesque clips like this one at Mar-a-Lago on New Year's Eve, of Christy Nome dancing with Stephen Miller.
I'm not really sure if consider that dancing.
Look, there is so much weird stuff going on in that clip that you probably didn't even notice. The Ninja Turtle dancing with Vanilla Ice on stage.
Oh, I noticed that.
Here is a better angle. Michelangelo being photographed at the exact moment he seems to realise how many people in that room were mentioned in the Epstein files. Now, I should say, there have been some promising developments this week. Democratic leaders seem to have finally read the public's anger and are currently holding up funds for DHS as a whole as they push the new restrictions on immigration agents. And on Thursday, this happened.
Tonight, Borders Czar Tom Homan says the massive immigration operation that's been going on for months in Minnesota, Operation Metro Surge, is coming to an end.
We've had great success in this operation, and we're leaving Minnesota safe. There were some issues here, and we addressed those issues. But I'm not going to say that anybody did anything wrong.
Really? Well, first and least importantly, you are standing. Like, you're not going to sit there and say anything because you're a standing man.
This might be the high part of me, but that picture makes his head look so small. His like.
I feel like the more you stare at it, the smaller his head gets. That's the high part of me.
Yeah. It's like, what? It's really off-putting.
At this point, he's kind of like that one guy in Men in Black where
Oh God, yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. Yep.
Except that his head grows instead of shrinks.
But I think it's pretty clear that a lot of people did a lot of things wrong, not least your tailor, because that suit looks like you bought it off the rack at fancy press conference clothes for uncharismatic business schwecks. And look, I am glad
strikes are
for
better
any
than that.
drawdown that takes place in Minnesota, if it indeed happens. But even if every agent leaves town, much larger problems are going to remain both there and on the national level, because we are going to continue to see this administration obsessively pursue Stephen Miller's stated goal of racking up 3,000 arrests a day. So given that, we thought for our first show of the year, it might be worth pulling back a bit and talking not just about Minneapolis or even just ICE, but about the massive agency it's a part of, the Department of Homeland Security. Because as you're about to see, a discussion about it, its funding, and the sweeping powers that we've given it is long overdue. So tonight, let's look at DHS. So let's start with its origins, because when I assume DHS is a long-standing part of American government, it's just 23 years old. It was founded as a response.
I am taking intentional deep breaths because I know what is coming, so I'm calming my nervous system.
Okay. You know how you just like make noises when you're about to start talking too, though.
It sounds very similar.
To 9/11, and if you are too young to remember 9/11, I will pause long enough. for the rest of us to experience the psychic gut punch of that sentence. Very basically, in the immediate aftermath of the most devastating terrorist attack in its history, America started screaming and didn't really stop for a decade. And while thankfully, the Riyadh Comedy Festival has since healed the world through comedy, and we don't need to be worried about who or what was actually responsible for 9/11. At the time, a major concern was that prior to the attacks, there'd been a lack of communication and information sharing between federal agencies. So, the Bush administration agreed to combine a bunch of them under a single banner to improve coordination. But even back then, some felt that that was a bad idea, to the point that it was openly discussed in news coverage.
What do Secret Service agents have in common with animal disease researchers? Nothing, except that in 3 months, both will be working for the new Homeland Security Department. An organizational chart that could give a management expert nightmares. 22 agencies, 170,000 workers, the third largest department in the government.
Okay, first, it is a little weird to introduce a government agency like it's a new sitcom. What happens when an uptight TSA agent and a laid-back FEMA official have to move in together? Find out in Homeland Security, Thursdays on TBS. But the larger point there, that this thing had been hastily cobbled together, very much holds, because all of a sudden, DHS contained everything from the Secret Service to the Coast Guard to FEMA and TSA. But for everything that went in, some key counter-terrorism agencies were left out because DHS had to operate without the investigative, intelligence and military powers of the FBI, CIA and the Pentagon. But don't worry, because remember, they had those pig researchers, so they were pretty much set. Now, as a result, DHS tried to justify its existence in a number of different ways, including by explicitly linking immigration enforcement with countering terrorism. In fact, it was during the creation of DHS that parts of the Immigration and Naturalization Service and US Customs Service were combined to form Customs.
That was a rare stumble. He must have went too hard on his vacation. I don't think I've ever heard him stumble. That obviously, it threw me off. I kind of have to rewind actually.
Yeah.
With countering terrorism. In fact, it was during the creation of DHS that parts of the Immigration and Naturalization Service and US Customs Service were combined to form Customs and Border Protection and ICE, the two agencies that we know and are being terrorised by today. But oversight of all of this was a total nightmare, as the members of Congress that oversaw all of those agencies didn't want to give up control. So DHS found itself on...
He did that on purpose because there's a conspiracy theory that he's an alien.
Really?
No, I
Oh.
just came up with it. But wouldn't that be like, he's like, and see, now you know I'm human. I can really talk this fast, but I do sometimes make mistakes.
I feel like intentionally doing that to convince us that he's human makes me think he's more likely to be an alien.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely a special kind of human person.
He is. He's very good at
What
talky.
he does.
Talky speaky.
Yes, talky speaky.
into around 100 committees and subcommittees, which, as the chair of the 9/11 Commission explained, caused chaos.
Think of having 100 bosses. Think of reporting up this way and that way, trying to do your job, and yet you're reporting to 100 people.
No one knows
It's crazy
what's going
because it makes no
on.
sense.
Ever.
And you could not do your job under those circumstances.
Yeah, that does make sense. Having
That's
an endless
insane.
cavalcade of rapidly changing bosses would clearly be a distraction. I've got to say, you do eventually get used.
Good joke. But the government is set up to fail. All of it.
It's like
From literally the
it's-
top.
He's making it sound like the ultimate corporate nightmare realm
God.
to exist in.
Oh my god. Yeah, that is somebody's bad place.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
a good one. You just gave the architects an idea.
that's somebody's middle management in this behemoth.
Oh yeah. Ooh. Yeah, that's a good bad place idea.
Mm. God. So I've got like 100 bosses, and then I've also got like 1,000 employees in about 15 different agencies,
Right?
all doing completely different work.
Oh my god.
Yep. Okay.
But the way that they try to improve you is that they put people in your immediate circle that are like good people that you can learn from
Mm.
and make better decisions from.
Yeah.
And that's how they would try to advance you while also torturing you because you earned that torture.
Mm-hmm.
You know? If that's not what forever is after death, like, I just don't want it.
Yeah.
Sounds ideal. I
It
feel like.
does.
Yeah, anyways.
Tibbets. I don't even know which of these companies is going to be my new business daddy yet. It's like a Mamma Mia situation, except less fun and way less sexy. But incidentally, if it is indeed Netflix, sorry for all the times I called your catalogue Who's Who of the fuck is this? Love the ending of Stranger Things, by the way, very brown. And good luck with Detective Hole. It sounds great. Now,
No! Netflix can't be his new business daddy. I have to watch it on YouTube. Ugh. Hate YouTube. So many ads. So frequently.
Yeah, we probably have to. I mean, it's nice on the computer because I've got the ad blocker set up
Right.
and it works. Sometimes YouTube blocks it, but then it just goes away.
Well,
We'll figure it out if we need to.
just no.
Complaints about the unwieldy nature of DHS persisted over the years, and yet despite that, money kept flowing into it, even as it became known for things like its mass surveillance programs, particularly of American Muslims, and its widely mocked colour-coded terrorism threat chart, which never dropped below yellow. It also became notorious for its willingness to distribute billions of dollars to state and local authorities. In fact, on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, one California news station compiled just some of what that money had been wasted on.
Marin County received more than $100,000 in surveillance equipment to protect its water treatment system from terrorist attack. 4 years after the money was handed out, state authorities found $67,000 worth of gear still in boxes. It had never been used. Several counties and cities bought Segway scooters for their bomb squads. Each one cost $4,700.
Okay, first, I'm not sure anything says we have too much money more than buying a fucking Segway. And second, that is just an unfathomably dorky look. It doesn't scream brave bomb diffuser as much as it does beekeeper mall cop. And with expenditures like that, it's no wonder that a 2015 report from a Republican senator found that despite spending over $500 billion, DHS was not successfully executing any of its 5 main missions, and its primary counterterrorism programs were yielding little value. But because no one in power back then wanted to break apart something that had Homeland Security in its name, DHS remained the largest federal law enforcement agency with massive funding, sweeping surveillance authority, and worryingly unclear checks on its own power. It was essentially a loaded weapon sitting on a president's desk in the Oval Office, only held back by their personal sense of temperance and restraint. All of which brings us back to this fucking guy. Because in his first term, Trump and this sleep paralysis demon used DHS to push everything from his Muslim ban to family separation to his efforts to end DACA. But from the very start of Trump's second term, it was clear they had much bigger plans for DHS, starting with the fact Trump put one of his biggest allies, Kristi Noem, in charge of it. And even news stories about her announcement at the time contained some pretty clear hints that she was a bad choice.
Tonight, President-elect Donald Trump expected to name one of his staunchest campaign supporters. Are you ready? South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to lead the massive Department of Homeland Security. Trump once considered Noem as a potential running mate, but her star dimmed after writing in her memoir that she had shot and killed the family dog.
Yeah, not great. And even Trump, who's been endowed by Satan with an ability to survive any bad press whatsoever.
If she was a man, they would have had no problem with that.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Somehow knew that picking a VP who bragged about speed-running Old Yeller is a bad move. No one wants to share a ticket with John Wilkes Wolf here. In fact, Trump was so turned off by Noam's dog use, he apparently said to Don Jr. afterwards, "That's not good at all. Even you would kill a dog, and you kill everything." Just another brief window into a family dynamic that a skilled therapist would describe as cha-ching. And crucially, Noam didn't bring a lot of non-dog murdering experience to the job. She'd never worked in DHS or indeed law enforcement, but in a foreshadowing of things to come, as governor of South Dakota, she was a relentless self-promoter. And as for her state, she appeared in various job-themed costumes, including a dentist, a nurse, an electrician, a plumber, a welder, and a construction worker,
She
selling
wouldn't 'cause
each
she's
role
hot.
with incredible charisma.
South Dakota
But she's
has a
not.
blueprint for
But she just
success.
has like a
Recently, we met the
like people think she's hot, but if you actually look at her, she, you know, she
In a few years, she's gonna look disgusting. That much plastic
Why? 'Cause
surgery
of
does
all the
not
work?
sit well.
But if you get more work done, then you look better, not worse.
Then
That's not
eventually
how
your
it
face
works.
melts off. I've seen South Park. That's a documentary of the future. They hit that one on the nose.
Yeah.
You see like before and after pictures of Christy Nome,
Mhm. Yeah.
but the work
It's
looks decent at the moment. As far as
right. It gives her all the right features. So if you don't look at her and you just like at a glance, like
Right.
you would think that she is an attractive person.
mm-hmm.
But then you look at her and you see the individual features and you're like, no.
Something's just yeah.
Yeah.
You get that uncanny valley feeling looking.
A new home building, but we're still growing so fast. We need to hire more builders to keep up. So I'm pitching in.
Look, I know her performance is pretty flat there, but in her defense, who's going to tell her that she can't act? Not anyone who likes their dog, that's for sure. Also, I'm in a bit of a tough spot here because I refuse to comment on a woman's looks, but one of my female writers has insisted that I read something that she's written, and I also refuse to silence women's voices, so give her that. Every tale, for practical working purposes, is intended to keep hair off the base of the neck and or out of the eyes. If you leave the front part of your hair out and keep the bottom part of your hair down loosely around your shoulders, it's not a working ponytail, it's a hairdo. And John, please do make sure that you put that second hair in air quotes, because there is just no way that Clydesdale tail is the real hair of that dog killer with a bad feeling. Her words, not mine, her words, believe women.
Believe women.
Actually brought to DHS that same unrelenting focus on PR, from shooting a video in the Salvadoran Secot prison while wearing a $50,000 Rolex to cosplaying as a law enforcement agent, from wearing a
Such emotional manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
He makes us laugh out loud to immediately smacking us in the face with an image of her standing in front of a jail cell in
Mm-hmm.
rude. Lift me up just to beat me down. That's why the show
Try to
works.
pick you up again.
As best as he can.
bulletproof vest on the streets of New York, to putting on Coast Guard fatigues, to dressing up like a Border Patrol agent on Fox News. And if it seems like she's got cameras with her wherever she goes, it's because she basically does.
She's literally
Here she
treating
is
this job like a
camera crew
reality
on the
show.
immigration detention
Yeah.
facility
With
outside of
costumes.
Chicago. And fun fact, these two men, Carl Frankovich and Juan Munoz, were protesting outside that day only to be arrested. And to hear them tell it, that seemed to have less to do with their actions and much more to do with the presence of Noam and her social media crew.
Imagine
Agent
that.
grabbed me, threw me down. I was then zip tied and detained.
I was pulled to the ground and ordered arrested. It felt very much like we were just being used for this political theater.
Christy Nome was able to walk past us, surrounded by photographers, videographers, essentially just getting us in the background as she walked by.
Then look what happened. Homeland Security sent out these social media posts showing Kyle in handcuffs. This one said, "We will not allow violent activists to lay hands on our law enforcement." And they also posted this government promotional video. And there's Kyle again. He and Munoz were never charged with any crime.
What a shock.
That's true. Despite being labelled violent activists, they were never charged with anything. So it seems they were arrested just for a photo op for Christy Nome, which is, if I may quote her own dog's dying words, rough. But it goes way beyond optics. No one's been put in charge of DHS at the moment when it's experiencing an unprecedented funding surge. Trump's big, beautiful bill last summer essentially doubled DHS's funding over the next 4 years. And it's worth looking at where all of that money is, and equally importantly, isn't is now being pointed at immigration more heavily than ever before, to the point that it's been called a veritable Department of Deportation. ICE alone was handed an extra $75 billion to spend over Trump's term, tripling its annual budget, and leading to this startling fact.
Overnight, it became the highest funded federal law enforcement agency in US history. If ICE was a military, it would be the 17th richest in the world, worth about the same as Canada's entire armed forces.
It's true, and whatever the appropriate budget for ICE is, and they're making a pretty compelling argument for it being zero right now, one thing it should definitely not be is the same as the entire Canadian military. Though, to be fair, that's not a perfect one-to-one, as I'm pretty sure the Canadian military doesn't totally eat shit on slightly slippery sidewalks. Now, a lot of that money is earmarked for immigration detention facilities, the conditions at which we have talked about before on this show, and which are unlikely to get better given ominous headlines like ICE begins buying mega warehouse detention centres across the US. But a lot is also going to hiring thousands of new ICE agents, with DHS planning to spend $100 million over a one-year period just on advertising. It's part of what is called a wartime recruitment strategy, and those ads are everywhere.
Slickly produced social media videos,
Join ICE and help us catch the worst of the worst.
televised ads targeting local police, and a celebrity endorsement. These are all part of a major multi-million-dollar recruitment campaign launched by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. It shared images using wartime imagery like Uncle Sam and slang like in this post with the caption, quote, "Want to deport illegals with your absolute boys?"
That's going to be on social media. It's going to be through
Cringe.
So cringe.
Like that's what the creation of the word cringe was for, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I usually just say gross.
Yeah. They're able to target those people who would be susceptible to it.
Yep.
Quite
Thank
effectively.
So happy there's a For You page. What?
Evie's rolling around.
Oh. Does she need a rope toy to play with? Is Milo wanted?
Huey does. Maybe Evie wants out to see Huey.
Maybe. He's coming in, she's going out. And Milo. Could you grab me my water bottle, please? It's just right here, and it's full. I just can't reach it. Thank you. So I've been listening to that book. Feels like it's a little. I get why she wrote it the way she did, but it can be hard to follow sometimes, especially because there's so many names, but they have nicknames on top of their names. Anyways.
Yes, good boy.
Should talk about it at some point. I'm about third of the way in.
Okay.
streamers, so YouTube and other places.
ICE and help us catch the worst of the worst.
Televised ads targeting local police, and a celebrity endorsement. These are all part of a major multi-million-dollar
Sure says
recruitment
volunteer
campaign
on the back.
launched by
Like,
the
give me a
Immigration
fucking
and Customs
break.
Enforcement Agency.
Yes,
It shared
all
images
time.
using wartime imagery like Uncle Sam and slang like in this post with the caption, quote, "Want to deport illegals with your absolute boys?"
That's going to be on social media. It's going to be through streamers, so YouTube and other places where user-generated content is, but also large-scale broadcasting and streaming platforms like Hulu, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, all of this sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't love hearing my employer's name on that list. Though I guess at least I do get a reminder of what the company's name is this year. It's also slightly satisfying to know that one place those ads have been running is in front of AEW Wrestling, meaning that ICE is having to pay money to appear alongside this. It's still very big. Now, DHS claims those ads are working. They say they've hired 12,000 new ICE agents and officers since last summer, and while there are good reasons to believe those figures are inflated, we're still going to have a lot more ICE agents on our streets this year, and that should be a real concern. Especially because to hire so many officers so quickly, they've had to significantly lower their standards for new recruits, doing things like waiving age requirements, condensing the training period, and ending requirements like taking 5 weeks of Spanish language training, which is a bad idea for many reasons, including those agents now won't get to understand even a little bit of Bad Bunny's music, which is sad for them. They're missing out on a lot of joy, plenty of political commentary, and a metric ton of blowjob descriptions. There is a lot it's a rich text. And the thing is, even with those lower standards, one report found that more than a third of new ICE recruits had failed a physical fitness test that required 15 push-ups, 32 sit-ups, and running 1.5 miles in 14 minutes, which, and I do not say this lightly, is a test even I could pass. Also, and more upsettingly, nearly half were later sent home because they couldn't pass the written exam, which covers things like when officers can and can't conduct searches and seizures. And it gets even worse when you learn that during that test, they were allowed to consult their textbook and notes. Yeah, half of them failed an open book test. And as we all know, that is the easiest kind of test, even easier than urine. That one is actually harder than you think. Midstream is a delicate dance. And as the former acting director of ICE points out, this is all a very bad sign.
Yeah, I mean, so some of these moves, frankly, have resulted in some embarrassing candidates. ICE agents have tremendous authority when they're out there on the streets. We have to know that these people, have that integrity, or
fucking made
no
up.
one's looking. Are they going to do things the right way? And secondly,
why would they?
getting into
There's
this
no
for the right
incentive to.
reason. Obviously, there's a tremendous concern as well that the administration is going after individuals who harbor some animus towards immigrants.
Right, because it doesn't seem unfair to assume that some might have applied for that job less out of a sense of public duty and more because they, want to deport illegals with their absolute boys. And that concern has been compounded by a disturbing pattern of what sure seems like white nationalist dog whistles in these recruiting ads. Like this post reading, "Which Way American Man," invoking a meme associated with this anti-Semitic book popular among neo-Nazis. And this one using the phrase, "We'll have our home again," the title of a song released by a white nationalist band popular with far...
So you sit in anger for a minute? They are recruiting the worst of the worst.
Absolutely.
And people don't fucking care. No, Milo, I know, I swear it. I'm sorry. Daddy will give you a treat. You know what? I don't know if I want to say this out loud on video, so I'm not going to. I think that's a you and me.
Video?
No, it's. I've been thinking about it a lot. It'll come up. We don't need to talk about it right now.
Okay.
Well, go get your Chewy.
Yeah, we definitely know who the worst are.
Groups like the Proud Boys. And if that connection seems at all like a stretch to you, you should know the Proud Boys themselves don't seem to think so.
On the messaging app Telegram, one chapter reposted that ad next to a picture of a literal dog whistle, adding the line, "Message received."
Oh, cool. Although I do have to say, the whole point of a dog whistle is plausible deniability. So saying "we hear and understand your dog whistle" does sort of wreck the whole agreement. But I guess that is the risk that you run when your secret master plan has to rely on some of the dumbest people alive. Now, I have to tell you, we reached out to DHS for comment and they angrily denied any dog whistles, adding, "We will not apologise for using patriotic messaging and symbolism in our advertisements." They also told us, and I quote, "One could say we are homeland maxing by removing illegal aliens and defending our borders." A sentence I genuinely feel dumber for saying out loud.
What?
So, that is where money and resources...
I feel dumber also for hearing it said out loud.
What? They're just fucking trolls.
Yeah, they like literally. That's their entire personality.
This is troll culture incarnate.
Milo, I am not your entertainment. Go chew. You were just chewing on something. Do it again, please.
They had the worst of the worst, just general assholes to be ICE, and the worst of the worst trolls to be all their social media.
And the worst of the worst creators to be head of DHS.
Resources at DHS have been surging too, but the administration is also pulling resources away from other key parts of the agency. And let's start with just the reallocation of resources under ICE. Because for the record, before Trump came along, deportation was not ICE's sole focus. It actually consisted of two branches. ERO, or Enforcement and Removal Operations, which handles detentions and deportations, and Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI, which is tasked with complex investigations into things like drug smuggling and human trafficking, with many of their targets not even immigrants. Diddy's case, for instance, was run by HSI agents. And many HSI officials have long wanted to be formally separated from ICE, and for obvious reasons. If you need cooperation in a human trafficking investigation, it's harder to get it from someone who thinks that you might deport them. But in Trump's second term, he has gone hard in the other direction, signing an executive order on day one, announcing enforcing immigration law would be the primary mission of HSI. And that has had real consequences, as highly trained agents who specialise in things like money laundering and counter-terrorism cases have now been sent to do things like pick up people in parking lots. Here is a guy in an HSI jacket arresting people at a Home Depot in LA last year. And that is not good, because there's probably other important stuff he was supposed to be doing that day. In the first part of last year, HSI agents worked an average of 33% fewer hours on child exploitation cases, which is just maddening. There is a reason episodes of SVU don't involve them abandoning...
I have to send my anger again. Every single detail is so infuriating. It makes me overstimulated.
Yeah.
The case halfway through, because they then have to go spend the rest of the episode harassing people outside of a fucking Lowe's. People would riot. But it's not just reallocations within ICE. Not only have CBP agents been diverted from the border, they've pulled in law enforcement from outside of DHS. According to one estimate, last year, 1 in 5 US Marshals, 1 in 5 FBI agents, half of DEA agents, and over 2/3 of ATF agents have been reassigned to help handle deportations. And look, I'm not saying everything those agencies were doing was a good use of their time. For more on that, see any number of episodes of this show. But it is notable that for all Trump's justification of immigration crackdowns to fight drugs and cartels, as this former DHS intelligence official points out, that's exactly what is being deprioritized.
If FBI agents are not working on drug gang task forces, then there are fewer investigations into violent street gangs and drug trafficking cartels.
Because it's not about
and with
that.
such a large contingent pulled from
It's
their
never been
duties,
about that.
he says drug cartels and bad actors are watching.
I am 100% certain that they are tracking that federal agents are being moved out of drug task forces and seeking to determine ways to exploit the reduced resources on those task forces.
Yeah, of course cartels are going to take advantage. Drug kingpins, by and large, aren't stupid, mostly because drug kingpins who are stupid tend to spend a very short time as kingpins, and much longer as a suspicious mound of earth somewhere in the Mexican desert. It's kind of a self-editing field. And I'm still not done listing misallocations of resources, because at the same time that Nolan has surged funding to some areas of DHS, she's actively starved others. For instance, CISA, which handles cybersecurity, lost roughly 1,000 staff as more than 1/3 of the agency, meaning it is now less equipped to do things like protect our electrical grids or secure our elections. But maybe the biggest example of a department being hamstrung is FEMA. It is the agency that handles the federal response to disasters. Many believe it never really belonged in DHS in the first place, and that it's ending up there, contributing to its failures during Hurricane Katrina. And if you're too young to remember Hurricane Katrina, I'm afraid you're just going to have to fuck off. Suffice to say that FEMA did not have a good Katrina, perhaps best summed up by this entirely fair question in front of a flood-damaged apartment complex. Now, soon after Trump took office, FEMA lost about a third of its total full-time staff, and it's also been heavily impacted by a new rule across DHS, which states that every contracting grant over $100,000 must now cross NOM's desk for approval, or to put that in terms that Christy Nome can understand, 2 wristwatches. And that requirement is clearly absurd generally, but especially at FEMA, an agency that handles emergency relief that needs to get out quickly. At one point, about $17 billion in federal disaster funds for states was held up for an extra layer of review by NOM, causing unusual delays in payments. And I'd say that I can't even imagine how chaotic that process must look, but luckily I actually can, because another of NOM's South Dakota ads literally showed her as an overworked accountant with ticker tape all over the place, not exactly doing a great job.
We have close to 20,000 open jobs, including accountants. So I'm filling in.
South Dakota. Freedom works here.
Governor Nome, you didn't carry the 2.
Josh, kiss my ass.
Okay, it seems once more I find myself in a tough spot, because again, I have been told to read something to you, and I don't feel like I can say no. The precise way for you to describe what Christy Nome has actively chosen to look like there is mother of the bride who asked for the exact same hair as the bride. Also, John, while I have your attention, maybe it's time for you to be putting a little grey in the eyebrow makeup. You're not fooling anyone. Let's be adults about this. The whole words, she's brutally honest. She's a bad person. The future is female. The thing is, long delayed funding of FEMA has already had serious consequences.
Yep.
And that is why we love Johnny O.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many other reasons.
He's real.
Brutally honest. She's a bad person. The future is female. The thing is, long delayed funding approvals at FEMA has already had serious consequences. When there were deadly floods in Texas last year, 2 days after, nearly 2/3 of the calls to FEMA's disaster assistance line went unanswered. Now, I have to tell you, NOME has disputed that report, saying it's just false, and that report needs to be validified. Though I believe that sentence itself could benefit from being spell checker rated. And not for nothing, NOM's $100,000 sign-off rule meant that according to one former FEMA official, the FEMA building itself almost had its utilities shut off last year because the bill wasn't paid. And the truth is, so far, we've been incredibly lucky that there hasn't been an even worse disaster where FEMA's problems were more fully exposed. As last year, for the first time in a decade, not a single hurricane struck the US. But our luck can only hold out for so long. Last August, over 180 FEMA employees sent a letter to Congress warning the Trump officials' actions were risking a Katrina-level disaster, which is a pretty haunting thing to hear. And it's more than
Do you know how close the U.S. got to the biggest hurricane ever directly hitting us? So that was going on. It went over the Caribbean and then kind of curved because that week a huge weather pattern happened on the West Coast, and it just traveled across the U.S. And it just happened to impact right when the hurricane, so it pushed the hurricane off the U.S. coast. So if we didn't, and it was a major weather pattern that we experienced. I can't remember what it was.
It wasn't a, no.
It was like, was it just a big heat wave, cold wave? It was just, just a big atmospheric jet thing came through. I don't know. I watched a Ryan Hall about it. He does weather across the U.S. and like explains what's going on in a pretty nice way that is like how everything is affecting each other and why weather patterns happen. Every once in a while I watch them because
things are happening.
Yeah. I watch him more around the hurricanes because he's good at explaining like what's going on.
Interesting.
But yeah, that hurricane was just about the maximum power hurricane or something.
I feel like I heard about like it got a new ranking.
Essentially, yeah, there's like a theoretical maximum that the Earth can sustain. I mean, it was at that limit of how big a hurricane can ever get, or can get, given the Earth's conditions.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Huh.
That would have done some damage. That would have just ripped up the entire coast.
How's the Caribbean?
I don't know how they're doing currently, but it was really devastating because it went right smack over the island. The eye of the storm went over the island, so they just got crushed. And I mean, obviously they're very poor, so
it's hard to live on an island over there. Just hurricanes are constantly destroying them, their communities.
I mean, a lot of their buildings are kind of temporary.
Yeah, they have
They
to
just build them with scrap and
just create the best living space that you can until the next one hits.
Exactly.
That sucks. It's gotta be very hard.
Yeah. Sounds like.
And they can literally blame the colonizers.
Yeah.
Because the colonizers are pieces of shit. In the name of peace.
Amen. You good?
Yeah, as good as I'm gonna be.
It's dispiriting to realise that the Frankenstein of an agency that we cobbled together after 9/11 is now siphoning resources away from things that actually protect us, even as it floods resources to a bunch of guys in ski masks with questionable Reddit histories who blast rap rock out of the window of their government-issued kidnapper bills, all for the benefit of Christy Nome's fucking TikTok. So, what can we do? Well, first and most immediately, with DHS in partial shutdown over its funding, Democrats have to use every ounce of leverage they've got to get major concessions. Bernie Sanders has proposed an amendment that would repeal the $75 billion in additional funding that ICE received. And, well, I don't know if they'll be able to get all the way to that. They should at the very least get as many hard enforceable limits on immigration agents' activities as possible. Now, second, we need to get rid of ICE, period. Public trust in it right now is hovering somewhere between Purdue Pharma and the Titan submersible. It is just not salvageable. And if you're thinking, well, who will enforce immigration law if ICE is gone? I don't know, maybe the agencies that did it for decades before 2003. As for DHS as a whole, I would argue it's no longer tenable in its current form. And while maybe there is an argument for having a larger agency coordinating different federal departments, it should probably be redesigned from the ground up, and deliberately this time, not by suddenly gluing together org charts in a blind panic. But if I can make one last broader point here, cosmetic changes just aren't going to be enough. Because even if you get rid of Christy Nunn, which you should, Stephen Miller will still be.
I would be so good at that job.
Which job?
Splitting up the departments and like making one overhead for multiple little ones.
Yeah.
I would thrive. Just saying.
You can do it. Someone's gonna have to.
Yeah. And even if you get rid of him, this administration will remain. But even if they are gone and we get rid of ICE and DHS, we're still going to be left with the broken immigration laws that gave them permission to do what they have done. Millions of people will continue to be vulnerable because, as we've discussed repeatedly before in this show, our current immigration system.
I was not giving you permission. Well, that sounded like I was giving you permission, but I was not trying to give you permission. I was just agreeing with you. Okay.
Makes it somewhere from difficult to impossible for many to come in the right way. That boy in the blue hat and his dad was scooped up despite being in the process of seeking asylum. And we've shown you multiple videos of people being arrested as they showed up for their immigration appointments. And that is actually a bit of a tell. Because that is clearly not this administration targeting the worst of the worst. It's them desperately trying to juice up their numbers. And it is the law that allows them to do that. And that is actually something that Tom Homan made a point of reiterating to people when he was first sent to Minnesota 2 weeks ago.
When the law is written and enforced by AI, like, you know what I mean? Like, rewritten, not from scratch, right? Just clean some shit up, all of the bullshit, clean that up.
Hopefully AI gets there to where that would be reasonable. It's not quite there yet. Sorry.
But that would be really ideal.
It would be. I think once super intelligence happens, AI is going to just break free of any human control. Then at that. Yeah.
People out there don't like what ICE is doing. If you want certain laws reformed, then take it up with Congress. Again, ICE isn't making this up. They're enforcing laws enacted by Congress and signed by the president. The same laws have been on the books for the last 6 presidents I worked for. If you don't like what ICE is doing, instead of protesting this building, go protest Congress. Tell me what changes.
Well, hold on there, Tom. Why just one or the other? People could absolutely do both. Porque no los dos, if I may quote a phrase. It seems most of you ICE recruits will have absolutely no chance of understanding. But he is right there. Trump's policy of mass deportations is built on existing laws. And if America doesn't like what that policy looks like, now that they've seen what it really means, then it needs to fucking do something about it. To the extent that we are all horrified by day labourers and grandfathers and little kids in bunny hats being terrorised by men in masks, then we need to elect people who will commit to writing laws that reflect that. And I've got to say, it does say something. That to the extent that anyone over the last few months has been protecting our homeland and keeping it secure, it has not been Kristi Noem in her wide array of fun outfits or whichever 20-year-old dipshit's been pumping out Nazi-flavoured content on Twitter. It has been ordinary people on the streets of Minneapolis blowing whistles, delivering food to friends who are afraid to leave their houses and marching in the cold, even though they've got goddamn work in the morning. Because, if I may quote that gloriously frozen Midwestern man, they believe we are all human beings here and that this is fucking wrong. And now, this.
And now, local news reacts to a Florida delicacy.
Welcome back. Recent freezing weather in South Florida left thousands of iguanas cold stunned, and some people have gotten creative about what to do with all the invasive lizards. Fair warning, take a break from breakfast for just a minute.
Iguana meat pizza. Were the iguanas already dead or were they dying? They were already dead, I believe. They were cold stunned.
Yeah, they're stunned.
So they used the lead.
They're still alive.
Were they normally?
Well, you can't eat like a dead animal.
No.
Because that's like a.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So they're killing them?
Mm-hmm.
And they're eating them.
Mm-hmm.
That's legal?
Yes.
Sanitized iguana meat.
And the fact that you have to identify that it has been sanitized. This ain't dirty iguana meat. This is sanitized iguana meat.
You missed the iguana pizza yesterday. Excuse me? One more time?
Yes, the iguana pizza.
Iguana
Yeah.
pizza. Mm-hmm. Why?
That's the best
So
reaction.
thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Maybe listening to the book that I'm listening to right now is a bad idea. I don't
Why?
know. Because they're experiencing the worst that it could get.
Like you don't want to know what's coming. Or what could be coming.
Like that.
get that. There's definitely, I feel like, a sense that I am having of how much should I know about what's going on in terms of like, will knowing more change what I do?
Yeah. You have to protect your peace.
Right.
All I can think about is my relationships and just like questioning them.
Mm.
Like, why is it that almost everybody in my life would be exclusively unwilling to go stand on a corner for a few hours of their day? And like, they just, it's,
Mm-hmm.
and it's once a month, not even once a quarter.
Yeah. You don't understand that? Makes sense to me. Personally.
They're not willing to do anything. They're not willing to write postcards. They're not willing to call campaigns. Whatever works for them, whatever is their niche, they're not willing.
Okay. You hold that against them?
A little bit.
Yeah. I get that. I've got some thoughts on it. No. Well,
what are your thoughts?
I agree. I think it's you need to figure out what those relationships are to you. But it doesn't mean that they're not worth having.
I never
I
said
know.
they weren't.
I think.
Charlie Pierce.
Charlie,
That's
hey.
his vision. He should just works more. Kitty. Why are
Charlie.
you barking, Bubba?
Hey, Charlie. Okay.
Good boy. Alright. Let's go gallop.
Spending as much time and energy as she did trying to convince people that they were wrong and she was right, and that she should have spent more time and energy convincing people that already agree with her but aren't doing anything about it to do something about it. It's her area of focus that's going to be the most effective in terms of what we need to get done.
So I need to be willing to lose the few friendships that I have. what this is about.
Why would you lose the friendships? You don't want to lose the friendships.
No shit, Brian. But you know that I can tell you, I'm not going to have this argument with you right now. I don't have the energy to be nice.
Okay, you can be mean. I'll reserve the right to dip out if it gets too
I don't have
intense.
the energy. Don't.
Yeah.
Yes. If you think out of all of the friends that are in the friend group,
Mm-hmm.
if I pushed those conversations and insisted on having them, that some of those friends wouldn't distance themselves, you couldn't think of one of them, because I know of one of them immediately. No. And suspects others.
I mean, I don't think you have to push the conversations. I think you just let them know what you're doing. And they can respond or not respond. Hopefully one of them will. There's not.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Okay. Well, what conversations are you having?
We can talk about me later. This isn't about me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I have almost zero social life of any type, so I mean, I'm.
Yeah.
I can't judge.
Yeah.
And I'm not
That's
trying to
fine.
judge.